This is Power Lunch
with Pabi Moloi
on Power 98.7.
Political analyst Professor Patrick Bond joins us right now, and we're talking a little bit more about Donald Trump, Washington, and President Cyril Ramaphosa. The EFF have threatened legal action over the Starlink deal as South Africa's sovereignty is at risk, even though Ramaphosa said, hey, we're a sovereign country, we're going to keep everything that we do, on good standing for South Africans. But it is alleged that one of the big moves that's going to happen in this meeting between President Cyril Ramaphosa and Donald Trump in Washington may allow Elon Musk's Starlink a tailored deal that bypasses black economic empowerment laws. How long have you been shaking your head about this, Professor Bond?
Pabi, it's so nice to be with you again and the listeners. And what an interesting problem, because what the EFF says is absolutely correct in terms of bending rules for a particularly obnoxious individual, Elon Musk. I think we always have to apologize that Gauteng gave the world Musk, but we also gave them Trevor Noah and Tyler and Charlize Theron, maybe a little offset. But now if he wants to come back, two questions. Is he destroying the black economic empowerment model that Ramaphosa himself put into action? Disclosure, I happen to be on his black economic empowerment research team in the late 90s, and it was right after the crash of his companies. It was the Moloi group, it was the bakery and all of the, Molepi group, and then it was also JCI.
I thought, where's my group? I want it immediately.
So Molepi, you might remember, had been a bakery, but it was a very extensive conglomerate that was all over the townships. But JCI was old money. And in both cases, the model at the time was to buy shares using high-priced debt and then sell the shares gradually to repay the loan. The problem was that the shares crashed in 1998, about 45% in the big mid-1998 meltdown. And then also the interest rates were pushed up 12% in just 2 weeks. And that was a catastrophic problem for B. That was B 1.0. B 2.0 is what Ramaphosa and his team, I was dissenting, but they came up with the idea, let's just force white-owned companies to start having 25 or 30% share ownership, industry by industry. And that's what Musk is now able, with his version of bullying, telling fibs. You can even go to Grok.com, his own AI, and ask, is there a white Afrikaner genocide? And Grok, his own underling, like this AI machine, will be very insubordinate and tell you, no, that's his fringe group, conspiracy. So they're talking about the boss, Elon, and of course Musk. That kind of offering, it's not like a $400 million jet that Qatar offers him. It's not this sort of $1.2 trillion investment that the Emiratis did. But you can see on the one hand, this is bending the rules for an exceptionally dangerous man who's killed many South Africans in recent days by withdrawing medicines, withdrawing the climate support because of his DOGE, his Department of Government Efficiency, budget cuts. And then the other big problem, which the EFF hasn't gotten to, is what will he do with our data if we upload through the internet all of our personal information via the Starlink? That's a terrible question, isn't it?
But is there an argument for Starlink, that Starlink would make a very big difference in South Africa in terms of reach and access for internet and connectivity?
My understanding is mainly speed. Now, we all get frustrated a bit when it's a little, there's a second or two or three on your browsing. And then it's also access to rural areas, which is why, for example, Zimbabwe or some of Malawi, some of these countries are looking at Starlink because it is a cheaper and better way to get your signal out. But I'm not too sure why, because competition from China is just on the verge of offering an alternative. I'm not sure, not that we can trust that the Chinese will use our data. As we know, there you can't do Gmail, you get, everything is monitored and surveilled. But the point being, there's also other ways that we can set up much better cell phone towers and other ways to get access to the farther reaches of the rural areas. But if you use Elon Musk, as we've learned from X.com, he will manipulate. He will take that platform, and use it, as has been shown numerous times, in a politically biased way. And I think his role in DOGE, right, the DOGE, this government agency, to march his team in and then suck out all the government data, Social Security data, the tax data, I would be very worried, as many people in the U.S. are, that this might be repeated in South Africa.
Okay. How likely is it that Ramaphosa is going to cave with the significant pressure from the U.S.?
It's your guess and my guess as good as any others, because what Ramaphosa has also on offer, this is relatively trivial, but Starlink, it's personal, but maybe this so-called transactional, which other people would say is corrupt, relationship with Trump and his underlings is important, but nevertheless the big ones are going to be in the extractive industries, and it's particularly the controversial oil and gas offshore deposits. You remember the marine seismic blasting that was so controversial, it does so much damage, and there was fight back from the Wild Coast, the Talibani community, Ahmadiyya Crisis Committee from the Sustain the Wild Coast. Those are community activists with a lot of integrity, and they fought back in the courts and stopped Shell and Johnny Copeland from getting those initial, and then also Total walked away last July from its huge field, Golpada and Liepert, that's right offshore from Manas, where in Mosgas, where there's already a facility to take the gas and turn it into liquefied natural gas and put it into the grid. Now, these are the questions, right, that the ExxonMobil, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, Anadarko, Peabody, the big five U.S. oil companies, are probably thinking about right now. They know that that's on offer. The other being minerals, because China gets many of our raw minerals, so does the U.S. platinum group metals and a few others. But really, this is one of the interesting problems, since BRICS is having a summit in 6 weeks' time, and everyone's going to look at Cyril Ramaphosa sitting at the table with the other 9 former members and say, what did you have to give up there? Can't we do something as an alternative? The Chinese are obviously interested in keeping the rare earth minerals and getting some of our own platinum group metals that go in. Yeah, these are the tough questions, aren't they?
I mean, that's very, very interesting. And I wonder, and half in jest, but half not really. I mean, will he send the 49 refugees back if there are ways around BEE? Because then there will be ways around the land issues that have sent them away in the first place. There'll be issues, the ways around that that then will show that there's absolutely nothing in South Africa, that any government is putting pressure on anybody for equality, or getting back to making sure that South Africa is equitable again.
Well, quite right. It is this reputational myth-making that Musk and probably some of the other South African lads around him and persuaded Trump there's a genocide. He keeps saying it. It's absolutely rubbish. And I think it's a laughingstock. But there may be something that, I don't know if they will take these refugees and give them decent lives, or they'll be, very uncomfortable. It'll be a difficult transition. We'll know in coming days and weeks. We don't know all the backstories of the 59 who have moved, whether some of them were genuine victims of rural crime, or have had some genuine problems of affirmative action, not fitting into the new South Africa. There may be some interesting cases, but I think the bigger question is whether 75 people leave South Africa every day, and a good percentage are taking big chunks of money with them, and hope they'll do better in other places. But since there's no Afrikaner genocide, there's no attempt really to change rural land patterns. The land reform has been as slow as any, I think, in history, given within recent memory. Since 1913, so much land is stolen from black people, and there's very, very little done to do redress. There's a lot of myth-making, isn't there? So I think what Trump probably wants to do is get some personal deals. Can I say that Trump Street in the CBD is really a difficult, dirty street. It's 5 lanes at one point. Have you been on that? Just as you come off the highway, the M1, near the Carlton Center, and there's Trump Street.
Are you joking? How do I not know this?
You're driving on that road from the highways. I do too much. And then, you sort of say, well, maybe I don't like that street. It's too dingy. Give me Stanton Drive. I know you want to make it like a lead drive over there. make it Phantom Drive and make it be a huge chunk of Phantom land for my Trump Tower, Johannesburg. Give me something. That seems to be what the modus operandi for Donald Trump is. I'm just joking, of course. There may be nothing that would attract him except some golf courses. As you know, it's Ernie Nels, and Scary Player. It's Retief Hussein, who have been very instrumental, along with Jan Rupert, in trying to say to Trump, this is a nice place. Wealthy whites, Afrikaners, and English-speaking and foreigners, we have a great time. Come and check it out. Your lads have been shooting in the game parks in the region. They'll know how to handle white South Africans and how to handle integration here if you wanted to even just come for a nice visit. Those would probably be some of the discussions going on at lunchtime today in the Oval Office.
I have 2 questions left for you. What role, like the EFF is calling for this to be seen as a betrayal of sovereignty and transformation, so what role should Parliament and civil society play in ensuring that deals like this potential Starlink deal should respect South Africa's hard-won laws and interests?
Yes, that's a very crucial question for the watchdogs in society. I'm glad the EFF has got the voice to sort of say, well, what do we want to do with affirmative action? We still desperately need it. The boardrooms, the C-suites are all overwhelmingly white and male. That would be very useful. But there's even more that they could do. They could say, well, if you don't like the way Donald Trump is walking out of the climate conference and the World Health Organization and denying food aid to Sudanese and cutting off our AIDS medicines and withdrawing the Just Energy Transition Partnership and messing up the world trade and finance, I could go on and on. Then he shouldn't be in the G20, should he? And he should actually disinvite. He's already said he's boycotting the G20, but disinvite Trump and not let him host it next year. Make it a G19. Who would oppose that? Certainly Mohammed bin Salman from Saudi Arabia, certainly Giorgia Meloni from Italy, and Javier Milei from Argentina. But I think 16 others in the G20 would say, vote Trump off the island this year and don't let him have it next year, because he's just such a wrecking ball for global governance, for the 3 ideals. And I hope that's the discussion that the EFF can also help catalyze, not just this one company, this one deal, but the bigger question. Does South Africa feel like a sub-imperial supplicant to Donald Trump, going on bended knee? Or should we be anti-imperial? I think the times are right for the latter.
Absolutely. My last question was just about, are we going to see any of what happens in the Oval Office, or will we be only able to hear from them in a press conference afterwards?
Yes, it's that flip of a coin of whether Trump is woken up on the right side or the wrong side.
Oh my gosh!
This morning, does he want to do a Zelensky? You sort of Vladimir Zelensky getting humiliated in front of the press, and you could see the white power establishment, the white males of the Trump regime, smirking and giving him a hard time. That would be your best bet if you're a gambler. It's going to be Zelensky 2.0. But it might not be. There may be these deals that maybe Trump feels, okay, I've made too many enemies. It's time to, he's what a mercurial, erratic character Donald Trump is. And that's why any kind of new dependence that we have by these new deals with the Trump regime, with U.S. business, I don't think they're very reliable just by virtue of who the man is.
Absolutely. I mean, just for the sake of seeing it and really having him represent who he truly is, it would be amazing to have that kind of televised meeting. But as you say, it's a flip of a coin, isn't it? It's a flip of a coin. I have found Trump Street in Marshalltown, their offices to let. Life is happening. So it's wheelchair friendly. There's internet. So it's out there right here, just up the road from us in Houghton, in Marshalltown. Prof, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time.